Welcome back to Financial Stories, the only podcast where we make balancing your checkbook feel as thrilling as, well, discovering a winning lottery ticket.
Hmm.
And today, we're diving into a company I'm sure you've heard of, Beyond Meat.
Yeah, Beyond Meat, they make those plant-based burgers and sausages.
Exactly, the ones that were supposed to,
Yeah.
revolutionize the way we eat, right?
Right. Beyond Meat's story is a really fascinating look at the entire plant-based meat industry. There was so much excitement at first, this bold vision to disrupt the entire food industry.
Totally. And disrupt they did, at least for a little while. I mean, Beyond Meat's stock has plummeted almost 98% from its peak.
Yeah.
That's like going from filet mignon prices to the cost of a sad little side salad. What happened?
Yeah, it's a pretty dramatic turn of events.
So how did this company go from like Wall Street darling to struggling to stay afloat? Today, we're going beyond the supermarket aisle, to unpack the whole story.
Definitely. And to understand this whole thing, we've got to start with the company's founder, Ethan Brown. He's not like your typical CEO.
Oh, yeah. What's his story?
Well, he grew up on a farm, worked in clean energy, and then later, as an adult, adopted a vegan lifestyle.
So, like, he's a real-life version of one of those How It's Made documentaries.
Hmm.
From farm to clean energy to veganism. It's like all roads led him to Beyond Meat, huh?
It really is. And, all that background really gave him a unique perspective. His upbringing, I think, gave him some insights into, like, the realities of meat production. And then, his clean energy experience probably fueled his passion for sustainability.
I see. So it all kind of came together.
Yeah, and it all sort of culminated in this kind of aha moment for Brown. He realized that meat production is a huge contributor to, greenhouse gas emissions. And so he saw a plant-based alternative as a solution to a bunch of different things, like not only climate change, but also the ethical concerns surrounding animal welfare.
It was a pretty powerful vision.
Oh, for sure. And it attracted some pretty big name investors early on. Bill Gates, Leonardo DiCaprio, even Tyson Foods.
Whoa, wait, even Tyson Foods? I mean, they're a huge meat producer. That's a wild twist. It's like everyone was jumping on the Beyond Meat bandwagon.
Yeah, it really was.
So what was their secret sauce? Besides, not actually using any sauce.
Right. Well, Beyond Meat wasn't just like throwing veggies in a blender. They were going for like a scientific breakthrough, using this really specific blend of peas, brown rice, mung beans, and a few other ingredients to like really mimic the taste and texture of meat.
It's like food science meets culinary magic.
Yeah, exactly. And their research lab was even nicknamed the Manhattan Beach Project.
Whoa, the Manhattan Beach Project.
Yeah.
That's a pretty bold name. Like they were on a mission to create the atomic bomb of veggie burgers.
Well, their goal was to replicate meat on like a molecular level.
That's some serious dedication.
Yeah.
And speaking of bold, their marketing was something else too. I mean, they managed to partner with some huge fast food chains, McDonald's, KFC, Subway, Dunkin'. It's like they were everywhere.
Yeah, they had this super aggressive marketing strategy.
Yeah.
And it really worked. They launched this really catchy Go Beyond campaign featuring athletes like David Wright, JJ Redick, and even Kyrie Irving.
And let's not forget that documentary Game Changers, which, really promoted plant-based diets for athletes.
Right. And it felt like plant-based meat went totally mainstream. Suddenly it wasn't just for vegans and vegetarians. It was like for everyone.
Totally. And then, of course, came that IPO in 2019.
Yeah. And Beyond Meat stock absolutely skyrocketed. It reached a peak of like $234.90 per share. It felt like the plant-based meat bubble was about to burst.
But not in a good way.
Right.
Because today, Beyond Meat stock is trading at around like $5.37.
Yeah.
That's a decline of almost 98%. It's like the bubble did burst, but not in the way everyone was hoping for.
So how did we get here? How did a company with this like incredible promise, this amazing story, end up facing such a steep decline?
Right. It's kind of a head scratcher.
Well, a big part of it is that the plant-based meat market got crowded, and it got crowded fast.
Yeah. Like everyone and their grandma decided to join the veggie burger party all of a sudden.
Yeah, exactly. And their biggest rival, Impossible Foods, they started popping up everywhere, partnering with tons of big-name restaurants.
Oh, and then remember Tyson Foods?
Yeah.
The ones who invested early on. They decided to like jump on the bandwagon too. They started making their own plant-based lines.
Yeah, exactly. The market basically became super saturated, and that created a lot of competition.
Yeah.
For shelf space, for menu real estate. It was like a battle royale for the veggie burger crown.
So competition was fierce. But was that the only thing that led to Beyond Meat's decline?
Well, No, it was definitely a big factor, but there were other things going on too.
Okay, so what else was happening? Were people just not buying into the whole, like, plant-based thing?
I mean, some consumers were super enthusiastic. They
Yeah.
loved the concept. They were all about it.
Yeah.
But some people, they just weren't convinced. Even with all the science, all the marketing, they just weren't convinced. Some people just thought that the taste and texture of plant-based meats just didn't, um, I don't know, it didn't live up to the hype.
Ah, yeah, the age-old question. Does it actually taste good? I mean, you can have the best marketing in the world, but if the product doesn't deliver on taste, it's going to be tough to sell,
It is.
especially when you consider, like, the price. Plant-based meat was often way more expensive than just buying, regular meat.
Yeah.
That's a deal breaker for a lot of people.
Yeah. And especially, when you're dealing with a product that some people still see as kind of unusual or processed.
It's like the veggie burger identity crisis.
Yeah.
Is it healthy and natural?
Yeah.
Or is it technologically advanced and meat-like?
Right. And that perception issue is like a real challenge for the whole industry because there's still a lot of skepticism,
Yeah.
about how plant-based meats are made and whether they're actually healthier than traditional meat.
So it's not just about the taste, it's also about the perception of what plant-based meat actually is.
Exactly. And then to make things even more complicated, Beyond Meat started having some operational challenges.
Uh-oh, what kind of challenges?
Supply chain issues, production inefficiencies. It was a whole bunch of things.
Oh no, not the dreaded supply chain issues. Those seem to be plaguing like everyone these days. It's like the Bermuda Triangle of the business world. So how did all that affect Beyond Meat?
Well, all these operational hiccups ended up impacting their ability to meet demand, and they also had trouble controlling costs. So obviously that hurt their bottom line.
Makes sense.
And it's not just about the money. These kinds of issues can really damage a company's reputation.
Yeah, it's like a domino effect. One problem leads to another, and then suddenly you're facing this mountain of challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of challenges, weren't there some high-profile partnerships that didn't really work out for Beyond Meat?
Oh, yeah, there were. Those big partnerships like the Beyond Fried Chicken at KFC, they kind of came and went faster than a viral TikTok trend.
So what happened there? Was it just bad timing, or was there something more fundamental at play?
Well, I think those failed partnerships really highlight a bigger challenge for the whole plant-based meat industry. It's still figuring out how to, scale up and meet the demands of a mass market.
So it seems like Beyond Meat went through this whirlwind of successes and setbacks. They had this great idea. They got these big investors. They achieved mainstream recognition. But then they got hit with all this intense competition, and there were these concerns about the taste, the price, and then there were the operational hurdles and those partnership flops. It's a lot. So what does all this mean for Beyond Meat's future?
That's the question we'll be exploring in the next part of our deep dive.
Ooh, cliffhanger. Stay tuned, everyone. This is getting juicy.
So despite all those setbacks, Beyond Meat isn't, throwing in the towel just yet.
Oh, really? So they're not ready to admit defeat?
Nope, not at all. They're
Well-
taking some pretty big steps, actually, to try and, turn things around.
Okay, so what's the game plan? Are they switching to lab-grown meat or something?
Not quite. But they are focusing on, becoming a much leaner operation. They've implemented a pretty big cost reduction plan. They've streamlined their production process, and they're really, really laser focused on boosting efficiency.
So they're tightening their belts and cutting the fat, literally and figuratively.
Exactly.
But is that enough? I mean, is that going to win back investors and consumers?
It's a good start, but they're not stopping there. They're also, they're doubling down on what made them famous in the first place.
Which is
Innovation. They've launched something called the Beyond 4 platform.
Beyond 4.
Yeah, Beyond Fourth. And they're claiming that it's going to lead to even better tasting products with even more health benefits.
Beyond 4. It sounds like they're taking a page from the tech world, constantly iterating, releasing new versions, like software updates, but for veggie burgers. But is that going to be enough? I mean, will a new and improved veggie burger be enough to really overcome the competition and all those, those lingering concerns about taste and price?
Well, they're thinking globally too. They're expanding into international markets where the demand for, plant-based alternatives is really on the rise.
I see. So Asia and Europe.
Exactly. Places where meat consumption is already lower, or where there's just a growing awareness of the environmental impact of traditional meat production.
So it's the classic go where the growth is strategy. It's like opening a vegan bakery right next to a yoga studio. Smart move. But let's be real, Beyond Meat has a lot to prove. I mean, they've stumbled. And investors are, understandably hesitant to jump back on board.
Oh, absolutely. Their 2023 annual report was not exactly a recipe for success. Net revenues were down 18% from the previous year, and they posted a net loss of $338.1 million.
Yikes.
Huh.
Those numbers sound about as appetizing as a burnt veggie burger.
Yeah.
But I guess the real question is, can they recover? Can they, regain their sizzle?
That's the million-dollar question. And the answer, as always in the world of finance and food, is it depends.
Of course, it depends. Come on, give us some clues. What are the key ingredients that will determine Beyond Meat's fate?
Okay. First and foremost, taste. They have to convince people, they've got to convince those skeptical consumers that plant-based meat can be just as delicious, just as satisfying as the real deal.
Right, okay.
And it can't just be burgers anymore. They've got to diversify. They need to offer plant-based chicken, sausages, even bacon.
It's like they need to become the plant-based version of a full-service butcher shop with all the bells and whistles. I mean, variety is the spice of life, right?
Yeah.
Even in the plant-based world.
It is.
But, okay, taste isn't everything. What about the elephant in the room? The price.
Right. Price is huge, especially in a challenging economy like we're in right now. They've got to find ways to bring those costs down and make their products more accessible to more people.
Okay, lower prices. Makes sense.
And they also need to really address those operational challenges head on. No more supply chain hiccups, no more production inefficiencies.
They've got to streamline their whole operation and run it as smoothly as a well-oiled, tofu press. Okay, I'm still working on my plant-based analogies, but I get it. Beyond Meat needs to get its house in order. What else?
Well, they need to do all of this, and they need to do it quickly because, the plant-based meat industry, it's still so young, it's still in its early stages, and there's a lot of uncertainty about its future.
Right. So Beyond Meat's at a crossroads. They've got this compelling vision, but they're facing some serious obstacles. This is like a classic tale of innovation, hype, and then, the harsh realities of the market.
It really is.
Yeah.
And for investors, it's a cautionary tale about the importance of, really doing your homework, doing your research, your due diligence before you invest in any company, especially in a volatile and evolving industry like plant-based meat.
So it's a reminder that even companies with a great story and a seemingly world-changing mission can face some pretty big challenges.
Exactly.
Don't just buy into the sizzle. Make sure there's real substance behind it.
I love that.
So what does this all mean for you, our dear listeners? Well, first of all, you're now armed with a whole lot of knowledge about the wild world of plant-based meat. But it also means you have a front row seat to one of the most fascinating business stories of our time. Will Beyond Meat become the Tesla of the food industry, proving all the doubters wrong, revolutionizing the way we eat? Or will they just end up as a cautionary tale, a reminder that even the most promising companies can, stumble and fall?
It really is a classic David versus Goliath scenario, with Beyond Meat taking on this massive, well-established meat industry.
Right. But even David needed a well-aimed stone and a little bit of luck, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so no spoilers or anything, but what are some things our listeners should keep an eye on when it comes to Beyond Meat and the whole plant-based meat industry in general?
Well, definitely keep an eye on how they handle those key challenges we talked about, Can they really improve the taste and texture of their products? Can they really win over those people who are still kind of skeptical?
Yeah, good point.
And will they be able to lower prices, make a plant-based meat more affordable for the average person? And can they finally overcome those operational hurdles? Become a truly reliable, profitable company.
It's like a financial recipe, right?
Yeah.
With all these crucial ingredients.
Yeah.
But even with the perfect recipe, execution is everything.
Totally.
So what does all this mean for our listeners who might be, thinking about dipping their toes into the world of investing? Maybe in plant-based meat, maybe in something else entirely.
I think Beyond Meat's story is a really valuable lesson for anyone who's even remotely interested in the stock market. It really shows how important it is to look beyond the hype, to do your research, your due diligence before you invest in anything, especially in a volatile, always changing industry like plant-based meat.
It's a good reminder that even companies with a great story, a world-changing mission, they could still run into some pretty big problems.
Yeah, for sure.
Don't just get caught up in the sizzle. Make sure there's some actual substance behind it.
Exactly.
And remember, investing always involves risk. Do your homework, diversify your portfolio, and never invest more than you can afford to lose.
Solid advice.
So the next time you're at the grocery store,
Yeah.
staring at a package of Beyond Burgers, just remember there's a whole financial saga behind that plant-based patty. It's a story about, innovation, ambition, and, well, the totally unpredictable nature of the market.
And who knows, maybe one day we'll look back and be like, remember when Beyond Meat was trading at $5 a share?
What a steal.
What a steal. Or, maybe not. But that's the beauty of it all, right? The market, it's full of surprises.
That's why we love it. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of Beyond Meat. We hope you learned something new, maybe even chuckled a few times along the way. Remember, investing should be both, informative and engaging. Stay tuned for more financial stories where we'll continue to unpack the fascinating world of finance, one company at a time. Until then, happy investing, everyone.